So the realities of covenant. Let's jump into this. We gave you yesterday a couple of things. The unaddressed history, which is very big. Do not belittle that part of what we discussed. Please do not. Your unaddressed history has great potential to destroy what you're building. Your unaddressed history, if you were not here yesterday morning, get that, has great potential to destroy. It has what I said yesterday is destructive power. And then we revisited our historic creation. We talked about truth and covenant. We talked about the exaggeration of sex. And that for us was very big because once we hit number one and dealt with some internal things and things that happened in our lives, to us, through us, we were at a certain place in our life, young age in our life, it affected us even now. And so I told you we went from maybe once a month just having an act to now maybe 8-9 times a month. And it's not just an act. It's what we call now, what did I give you yesterday? A vulnerable expression of love that produces out of that. And so London has this prayer that, tell them about the prayer. I ain't going to tell them, you tell them.
Well, once we went through our whole increase in our communication and kind of talking each other back to birth, I just said, hey, I wanted to make sure that we can't keep our hands off of each other. You know, so every now and then, you know, I'll put my hands on his knees or something. I'll touch him. And before, when you go through things, and I know for me and women, I think you probably can attest to that. Sometimes you go through, you're maybe angry or upset with your husband, and sometimes you're like, don't even touch me. So my actions or my thoughts went from a point as sometimes don't even touch me to I want it to be at a place where we can't keep our hands off of each other. So as I said that, I shared that with him. And at first I was thinking, should I share this with him? That's the enemy coming in like, hey, don't share your deepest thoughts or your deepest wants that you want this to happen. Don't share that with him. But I kind of broke that and I was like, no, I'm going to start sharing with him. So I shared that with him. He was like, And so as we started seeing it, I was like, oh, actually he said, this is coming true. Your prayer is coming to pass. You know, we can't keep our hands off each other. And it's not always in a sexual type of deal because you're not at a place like here. We can't be, having sex right here while we're talking to you. But my hand, continue.
I was just going.
Lord have mercy. Help us, Jesus. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to make it plain as possible. So, yeah, that was my prayer. And my prayer is coming to pass, so. You say what?
I see. Okay, now you trying to grab something else. No. As we begin to share more.
We've come a long way in that area.
No. As we begin to share more, you'll understand why. Yeah. How things became real to us in terms of once we uncovered the past and things that had been suppressed. And I mean, when we talked about things, here's the key. When we talked about the exact same things that happened and didn't even know. When we uncovered those things, there was a knitting of our hearts that we have not felt ever before in our marriage. I would want couples to get to that point. I don't think many couples have. And I'm telling you why you have not, because you're really still on the surface. And there's still a whole lot of things that you must share. We were watching Pastor Dollar once, maybe a couple months back, and he was talking about how he shared some very detailed things, and they've been married almost 40 some years, I think, with Taffy, and how immediately it opened up levels in their soul that they didn't even know existed for each other. And we were in the process of our talks. That just made us talk even deeper. And trust me, I'm not trying to over push this point. I'm telling you where the real stuff is. I'm telling you where the things that you desire to see in your marriage, that you've been praying for and you thought it was going to be like when you came down the aisle, that's where it is. It's not on the surface.
I want to over push the point.
You do. Go ahead.
Yeah, because that is, for us, that is the key. Communication is a very key factor in your marriage. You know, like you said, if you're not talking to your spouse, you're talking to somebody else. So with communication, you build soul ties, you build relationships. So if you're not building with your spouse, who are you building with? So we had to come to a place where, hey, put our pride down, put our fear down, put our selfishness down, put all of this, put our past down, and get to the nitty gritty of who we are. We didn't know, we knew on surface who we were, what we had dealt with in the past. But by us talking each other back to birth, we know now who we really are.
And we understand why some of the episodes in our marriage where we hurt each other the most, we understand now where that came from. See, sometimes you think that your spouse intentionally hurts you. I asked you the question yesterday. I don't think anybody says, let's get married so I can hurt you within the next couple of years, or I can cross you, or I can break this covenant in some way. I don't think anybody does that. I think we overlook the power of seed. We talk about it in church on one end. But just because you suppress something, the seed was still sown. And at some point, a harvest is going to come out of that seed. And when that harvest comes out, it pushes you to these moments of having now to talk to find out why and where did that come from and how did that happen, how did that get in. And it took us on these journeys. And I remember one morning, we had just got up, we was getting ready to go to work, and we both just had like the biggest meltdown in our marriage, and we just sat and held each other and cried. And I remember her saying, Lord, help us, please. Because it had got to that point. It's like, okay, what we're sharing now, I don't know if I can handle. She don't know if she can handle. And even after she shared it, she felt clammed up, like I can't believe I just told you that. And the enemy tries to use this stuff about I'm not going to like. And then I was thinking, well, not going to want me. And it was just a rough patch. And then
this is 23 years of marriage.
It's 23 years. And so trust me, where you desire to go in your marriage, that's where it is. And I talked to couples yesterday that have been married much longer than us. And it says, Pastor, you guys really helped us. And we got to really uncover some of this stuff and talk about this stuff. You mean to tell me 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, you still saying that stuff we got to talk about? Absolutely, because our culture is a culture that says it's okay, just leave it there, don't deal with it. It happens everywhere. It's a part of everybody's journey. You're old now. It doesn't really matter, and it really does. And it eats away at your soul for some time until you get to the place, because your spouse should be the one that you can talk to first and talk to the most.
Even we learn when we talk that things, I mentioned the other day that we both went through some things in our sexual life that was traumatic. Those things we found out talking kind of prohibited or tried to shut us down in our marriage, even though things happened to us back in our past when we were children. So we kind of looked back, I'm like, oh, that's why, I don't like this, or I said, this would never happen because this happened to me in my past and I didn't like that. So even talking back, I believe
but I didn't know.
Right,
you
didn't know.
So now I'm offended because,
right.
Is it me? Am I too big? Because I struggled. First of all, when we got married, it was like, when I met London was a 0. She wore a size 0. I mean, she's like the smallest thing ever. And then here am I, this guy, and I've always been healthy and living in abundance. Come on here. I've always had abundant living. And I struggled with that early on about my identity in terms of her being little, me being big. And so when we got in the room and certain things she didn't want to do, I'm thinking, well, is it me? Because we didn't, and I think about it. 23 years later, I find out why. So you're talking about 23 years of trying to figure this out and being upset and offended on and off because I want to do this, she don't want to do this. I want to go here, she don't want to go there. She want to do this. I ain't comfortable with that. Let's just skip it all. And when you said let's just forget it, you don't forget it. And so it caused these scenes and these episodes in our living and in our marriage. And I don't get me wrong, we were good, but we were not where we wanted to be. You can be good and still not be where you want to be, where you know you need to be or deserve to be or can be. And so I want to share about how we got there. And so part of it was, if you can write this down, we started 3 yesterday, go to number 4. Let's jump right into that. Was the mandate to deny yourself. That was really big. Because although we wasn't planning on or intentionally being selfish, that's really what the root of it was. Even when we chose not to share, that was a selfish piece. Because it's affecting other things when all we got to do is share with one another. Marriage is designed to help both parties get free or get delivered from selfishness. Write that down. Marriage is designed to help both parties get delivered from selfishness. When you conclude in your mind that I'm not going to die to myself, then separation, divorce, calamity in your marriage is inevitable. It's bound. It's destined. When you decide I'm not going to die to myself. There will not be, put this down and we'll go on. There will never be the life you want in your marriage. There will never be the life you want in your marriage until there is a death that you need in your marriage. I believe us beginning to talk was us dying to ourselves on many levels. And the more we talked, the more we died.
And we died to not only selfishness, but to fear, to pride, to insecurities, to all of that. Mm-hmm. That's included with dying to yourself.
So there would not be the life you want, the life that was intended for you to have in your marriage, until there's a death that you need in your marriage. Because we say this all the time. I love you. That love comes with a level of death that you must have. Are y'all getting this? I love you. So where is your willingness to die to yourself for me? Where is the sacrifice that you're going to make for me? I know what you want. I know what you feel. I know what you desire. Where is the sacrifice in that concerning me if you love me? I'm going to say this, and it may sound very odd, because we in the season now, people say, I got to protect my peace. If that means me walking out on you, I got to protect my peace. Sometimes you protecting your peace is doing the work with the one you've committed to. Listen to this. Sometimes you have to choose the will of God. Well, not sometimes. You have to choose the will of God over your own happiness. That's really strong. You have to choose the will of God concerning you and your spouse over your own happiness. Because when you start to walk through these journeys, it is tough and it is ugly before it gets better. And if you're selfish about protecting your peace, you'll never get to your expected end in it. You'll never get to the place you want to get, that you so desire to get, because you feel like if they, which is a selfish statement. You think it's not, because you're saying that it's selfish, because what you're saying is it's not me. You're saying it's not me. And once we got married, here's the thing, it was us. Y'all quiet. You choose the will of God over your own happiness. Because love governs our marriage, yes. But great love means I don't have to have my way. This is how, in my opinion, you make strides now to control your own happiness, even in a marriage. We put too much weight on our spouse to make us happy. Talk about that. You were talking about this last night.
So I asked, we were, talking about, and I said, well, Duke, I don't know if couples want to be happy in their marriage. I think sometimes you come to a place where maybe it's historic creation or this is what we do, but sometimes I think couples don't want to be happy. Couples like drama sometimes. And for me, I don't like drama. I want to be happy. I want to choose happiness. And so I said, what is happiness? It's a state of well-being that encompasses living a good life. That is with a sense of meaning and deep satisfaction. So when we got married, we said till death do us part. So in this death do us part, I want to experience happiness. And I believe that you can control it, not your spouse, as he said, not your situation, because as we know, our response is our responsibility. So whether your response is one of happiness or one of sadness, that's your responsibility. And you are the one that's eating the fruit of that response first.
And you read in your definition, one of the parts of it was deep satisfaction. Ask yourself this. How satisfied am I in this union? Am I satisfied, or do I have a professional settle? Am I deeply satisfied, this happiness part, or do I have a professional settle? Because of my status, who I know, I already had the wedding, people know me at my church, my family. I have a professional settle.
And either one is a choice.
If either one is a choice. And if you says, I have a professional settle, here's my response to you. Then you have not done the work to get to the place of deep satisfaction. It's deep. I'm glad that you read deep satisfaction. This is not prayer. It's not a confession. And praise the Lord, I receive. It's work. And some of y'all using y'all marriage confessions like it's some kind of genie you rubbing in the morning. And if you don't put the work behind it, nothing gonna happen. That's why you're frustrated, because you've been saying that confession for 3 years now, and you keep saying, I did my part, I read these 3 scriptures, and he still won't act right, or she still won't, cook the chicken. There's some work you have to put into that, and that work, we have to own that work. The guy, Dr. Ford, which I tremendously enjoyed, all he talked about, if you heard, was all the work he does. Now, I'm sure if she was here, she'd tell you the work that she does. That's all work. We was laughing. Ooh, he ran her bath for her. Come on, Doc. That was work he was doing. Continue, and he's 60-some years old. So the work never stops.
Actually, he said it takes more to keep them than what it happened to get her.
It takes more.
Yeah, because we're changing. We change. I'm not the same person I was when we got married in 1995. He's not the same person. So we change. We're evolving.
And so if you're in a place of settle, you have to make up in your mind today that I'm going to do the work. If not, then what are you doing? You're waiting on something to happen when nothing has happened. Because something happening is a result of something happening. It's a result of you doing something. You say, well, I am doing something. I went to the altar last week, and he didn't come to church, but I went up there and I let them pray for me. And they prayed, and they said God was going to, blow on my marriage. And that's all great. What's the work that you're doing? Yeah. That's the work the elder did for y'all.
I ask God, what is it in me that needs to change? What do I need to do, instead of saying, what do my spouse need to do? What do I need to do that needs to change? Because like you said, nobody's perfect in this marriage. We're all working on something. We're all working on something. We're all working on something. If we have some perfect people in here that have reached it, raise your hand so I can kind of let you lay hands on me. We're all working on something, but if we all focus on ourselves, if he focuses on him, I focus on me in this relationship, we'll always win. I can't always expect him to make the change. I can't always expect him to do that. I have to do my part because I'm the only one that can change me. I can't change him. When you go into a relationship, and I know sometimes we always do that. Hey, I'm going to get married to her. I'm going to get married to him. And she going to change or he going to change. We're going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. No, how about I'm going to change in this relationship? I'm going to change in this marriage. We don't take responsibility, I believe, in this. We always point the finger. And when you point the finger, one finger is pointing at that person. 3 fingers are pointing back at you. 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So what can you do? Ask God, show me. Because there's a book I used to read when we first got married. It's prayers for wives to confess. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get him. I'm going to pray for his friends. I'm going to pray for this. I'm going to pray for this. And the first prayer in that book was a prayer for me. I was like, ooh, so I got to get it together first before I expect him to get together? That's how it works. Make sure you're doing everything you need to do to change you. Point to yourself, say, I need to change me. I need to set my pride down.
Set my pride
Come on, I need to set my pride down.
I need to set my pride down.
And change me.
And change me.
Because you are the only person that you can change. When you look into changing him, that's where the frustration comes in at. Because he's not going to change because you're telling him to change. He's actually, sometimes, with your children, you want them to do certain things, and sometimes they do the opposite because you're trying to make them do that. It's the same thing with them. You're pushing them to the edge. You're trying to get them to do this, get them to do that, and you're pushing them further away. Just take responsibility and change you. Change you. Oh, if we change ourselves, that will take so much pressure, so much headache off of us in our relationships. Man.
I think it causes a level of frustration that pushes us to want to break covenant, because you feel like I'm working very hard to make this other person see what I want them to see, or do what I want them to do, or feel what I need them to feel, so we can just go on and be the couple we need to be. And when it's not happening, it builds this frustration that pushes you to break the covenant. And of course, that's not the will of God. I've learned this over time now. Unless they wear a diaper, you're not going to change them. You're just not. I think our own self-will sometimes prevents that. You tell me take out the garbage at 8, I'm going to take it out at 8:30 on purpose, because you're not going to tell me what to do. Because I'm a grown man. And I know it needs to go out, but you ain't going to be telling me when to take out no trash. So when I take it out, I take it out. And I don't care if the house is stinking. I don't care if it causes more problems. Our pride and our haughtiness and our self-centeredness, it's reckless at times. And it doesn't matter if other stuff is affected. I'm not going to let her tell me what to do. I'm going to have my way, even if my way is destructive. There's a level of pride you have when your way is destructive and you don't even care. And not that you don't care on purpose, but you'll get to a place where you just all off somewhere else. Are y'all listening to me? And I think it starts with this piece of talking and digging. I thought about, if we had talked about some of this stuff earlier. First of all, what level of covering will we have had for one another? What level of prayer will we have had for one another? And some of the things we experienced, I know we wouldn't have experienced had we did some of this earlier on. And so, okay, that's so much loaded here. Go ahead. This You were talking about the happy piece. I want you to finish that because you started preaching, and then it was good. But I want you to finish this because you was talking about some good stuff last night about it being your choice.
Yeah, it is your choice. Just like, in Deuteronomy, the Bible says, I put before you life and death, blessings and cursings. And it tells you, choose life so that you and your children, you and your descendants may live. So even in this state of happiness, that's a choice. You have a choice in every encounter that you have with your spouse or with anybody. You have a choice to take the low road or to take the high road. The low road for me is being sad with it. The high road is being happy with it. So
now the Holy Ghost helps you with that choice.
Yeah.
How many of you have been on a trail or road or whatever, or in your marriage, and you heard a voice give you some instructions of what to do?
In that moment.
Text her, call him, fix this, do this. How many of y'all have had that? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Because that's automatic. It automatically comes out of your spirit. You have the will to override that. When you override that, you make the choice of reaping the results of that override. So you can't be mad about the fruit you get because you made that choice. The still small voice came and said, because you didn't feel like it. In your natural, I ain't called her and said nothing.
Because you think you justified in what happened.
Right. Yeah. But it'll say text, call, whatever the instructions are. And if you choose to let go of yourself and do that, you'll see results come from that, as opposed to chaos coming out of that. Every situation don't have to be chaotic.
That's right.
Everything shouldn't lead to an argument or a slamming of the door or intimidation through silence for 3 days or whatever your commonplace is when it comes to that. It shouldn't have to lead to that. Here's why it does, because we're making the wrong decisions.
And, we always talk about, well, my spouse, knows how to push that button. And I got a saying like this. Why is there a button? Think about it. Why is there a button that your spouse can push or anybody can push? Who controls that button? How about we get rid of the button so nobody can push those buttons? The enemy wants us to have those buttons because he can push them. The enemy knows, push that button and she gonna do this. It's like a wind-up toy. You wind her up and then pop goes the weasel,
But that button, listen, no, for real, that button goes back to having that historic creation talk. That's where the button comes from. You saw the man of God say yesterday about his wife with the door. And he brought back in the historic creation. They had to have this talk about why you tripping over this door because something happened back then. That's why the button exists. And so if you don't have these talks to find out why it exists, deal with the root of it, it'll be there. But even if it's there, after pushing my button 10 times, I need to check my response. I'm not going to keep letting this get the best of me and I just keep flying off knowing the button is there, knowing you're going to push it.
I think that could be a sign of immaturity as well.
Could be.
I mean, I was just trying to be nice with it.
Oh. Yeah.
I was trying to be nice with it.
Listen, I'm going to speak for me. I was very immature as we grew in our marriage. And if I'm not careful, I still can be sometimes. My response still can be immature. Anybody ever had an immature response even after you knew? So I think the first part about this is just admitting the stuff. Go ahead, you was going to say something.
No, just acknowledging it. Because if you're sitting in a place where I don't do nothing wrong, then you are wrong.
Or not even I don't do nothing wrong. I'm justified in when I do stuff.
It's wrong.
Because of you.
It's wrong.
You make the decisions for this position of happiness in your life. Some of y'all come here every year. Every year. It's like, what's the thing when stuff happens over and over? It's like deja vu.
Oh, yeah.
Like the same thing every year. Same issue, same stuff, same strut, same challenge. And you come here every year to get renewed again. Get a couple teachings and be like, okay, we good till next year or mid-year. We gotta eradicate some of this and fix it.
These things help you stay good throughout the rest of your marriage. It's not a temporary fix. It's not a temporary fix. It's to allow us to go through till death do us part, in happiness, in love.
The annual retreat is not a Band-Aid.
No.
It's not. If you come here for a Band-Aid weekend, it's not going to work. Where we are right now, I would that everybody get there. I'll talk about how we got there, but I would that everybody get to this place. I can look at some of you, and I can see right through the makeup and the outer core and the polish that you think you have, and see that there's major things happening there that need some addressing. There are major things going on in our hearts that needed some addressing. Yeah. And it's over and over. Let me try to do that. You want to do that? Where's that bag at? Give me this bag right here. I've used this several times in several teachings, but it keeps coming back up. And I'll finish with this. And so and y'all have heard me talk about this with the offense message. And so I come home from prep on Tuesday night. It's cold outside. And we don't have any heat. And I'm like, London, can't tell it's cold. And he said, I just been upstairs. I'm under the covers. You know, I'm good. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's cold. The house was reading like 63. And when I left, it was reading like 78. And so, of course, what I always do, I reached out to Clyde and Brian. And I said,
hey.
Yes, I said, y'all, because all I know is if the heat ain't on, maybe the pilot went out, something like that. So I just text and says, and I ain't even been downstairs. I says, y'all know how to light a pilot? Pilot must have went out because I know my heat was working this morning. And they emailed me back some stuff. It's now 10:30. So then I'm asking for numbers to call for somebody to come out of emergency to check this because I can't sleep all night with no heat. You know, kids upstairs, whatever. And you got something? And so
he putting the pressure on me to find a place to call.
I'm like, call some places. Let's get some numbers. Get somebody out here. And so we finally got somebody to come out. The guy got there at midnight. And he comes in. And I didn't even realize the unit, I have a new unit because our home is only 3 years old. It's not even an old kind where the pilot can go out. And so he comes in, he's taking stuff apart, he's got the door. Now the unit looks beautiful.
What did you do before he came in, though?
Let me get through that. The unit, we ready, ain't we? The unit looks beautiful.
I'm in the bed with all this under the covers.
But he takes the top off and the cover off, and it's lit up inside. It's blinking. And the humidifier is blinking. And all this stuff, and he's telling me this means this is not right. And when the unit comes on, it all comes on together. He says, and it's blowing, but it was blowing cold. So it was functioning, but not properly.
It's malfunctioning. Mm-hmm.
And he's going through all of this stuff. And he says, I think your circuit board is blown.
Circuit switch?
He said the circuit board first. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, the other switch.
Then he said, I think your limit switch is gone too. because the
all these
circuit board
problems.
then went out and it blew your limit switch and everything is haywire here. And he says, and I got to order these parts. I can't, now it's costing me $100 to come out here and just tell me this, and I still ain't got no heat.
And the cost in his estimation are racking up.
Right. And
all these things are wrong.
So he says, he starts to put it back together. And on the side of the furnace, I have my filters that I'm supposed to change out every 30 days. And he says, oh, and this is the first thing he should have asked me. He said, did you change your filter? I said, oh, I ain't no filter. I ain't changed that filter since June. So we pull it out, and this is how it looks. Once that heart is not flushed on a regular basis, because that's what this means. This entire unit that's only 3 years old, and it's a top-notch unit. It's one of these new ones, these fancy ones. The whole thing is shut down. Now, on the outside, it looked good. When he walked in, he says, man, you got a nice unit. But when he took the cover off, it was flashing. It was lit up. And because I ignored all of that for the last 6-7 months and didn't flop out and flush the filter, didn't change the filter, didn't deal with my heart on a regular basis, it shut down the whole thing. So we're in the house and it's blowing. You can hear it come on. But it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. Now I got somebody else in my house.
Midnight.
I got a stranger in my house now. I don't know this white guy in my house. Matter of fact, all the top places we call, they say they got 24-hour service. They really don't. They put your name on the call and call you back in the morning on a little tab or something. Mm-hmm. But this guy must have been a mom and pop place, because when the lady answered the phone, I think I woke her up. She said, Best he. I said, you have 24-hour emergency service? Yeah, we do. What's this? She said, text me your number and your email address and your address. It'll be there within an hour. And I said, oh man, this must have been his wife. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, within an hour, he rang the bell. But first I was like, I don't know, because this lady answered the phone. It's midnight, and he said, be here within an hour. Everybody else can't come out. So I'm like, you stay upstairs. Somehow I'll protect. I don't know what I was going to do, Dad, because I didn't hear nothing. You stay upstairs. Tongues. So I'm down there with this stranger. She texting me, you okay? You good? And
he's not answering my text. I'm like, really, what's going on?
Because I'm watching this man. Deal with something I should have dealt with. So I got a stranger in my house that's costing me now. Had I just took this $1.50. Now here's the thing. I didn't have to go to the store and buy this. We had a whole lot of them sitting next to the unit. We just didn't use it. Here's the thing. I don't even go down there unless there's a problem. And that's a problem. If the only time you begin to address something is when there's a manifestation, it's probably already too late. That's what drove us to start this talk again. We were already talking, but it drove us to talk again and go deeper, because there beginning to be manifestations of early on seed we didn't even know was there. And so he says, this is your problem. Now, he just told me it was the limit switch and the circuit board and all this stuff. And it was $1.50 filter.
And listen, that wasn't the first time this had happened. I ain't trying to put him out there like this, but it goes.
No, you got to tell that.
That wasn't the first time. You have a couple of these. This is about the
third or fourth time this has happened.
But you didn't go to that. You didn't go directly thinking it's the filter. You called somebody else.
So many lessons in this.
So many.
When do we learn the lesson? This the fourth time this filter done cost me.
Yeah.
It's the fourth time. I done come in my house. The last house this happened.
Yep.
They come in the house. It's cold. What's going
Yep.
on? And I forgot all about this again.
Because we don't go to the root of it. This is the root of the problem. We didn't go right to the root of the problem.
I got a box of these, Rob, for $4.99 at the Menards.
And how much you got to pay now?
I paid about $600 in service calls for forgetting to change this right here. Mm-hmm. Forgetting to deal with the heart. Yeah. That whole unit can be shut down if you don't address the heart.
Man.
The whole unit. The whole unit. He said, because what happens is when you don't change it and it gets clogged up like this, in the little whatever the part is, it keeps reading that it's overheating. And it sets it off and it shuts it down. I don't care how much we wanted heat. We wasn't getting none that night.
And listen,
Nothing.
it has started doing that maybe a couple of weeks ago.
The signs were there.
The signs were there.
We came home maybe 4 days before that. I was like, it's cold in here. They said, what's happening? Your unit is choosing when it wants to come on now. When it cools down, it come on. When it overheats, it goes off. So we noticed it. I was like, whatever.
We overlooked it.
Whatever. I got to get to the church.
Overlooked it.
I come in. I'm like, it's cold down here. And I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, something ain't right.
So then we pull out the little heater, brought it upstairs.
We tried to find other fixes.
Tried to patch it up.
So I went out in the basement. We won't even use no doggone space heater. I went and got a space heater, brought it upstairs.
Ignoring the root of it.
We plug up the space heater.
Yeah. And what happened?
And London is sitting on the bed, and it said, pop, pop, pop.
What is going on?
It's fire sparking. You about to cause all these issues now.
Ignoring the root of it.
Instead of just dealing with this.
Man.
Just deal with this. And so here's what we did.
What did we do?
I said, let's set.
I think I said that.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, I said, no, seriously. Because I'm like, we're not going to.
One of us said it.
I said it.
She said, let's set it in our phones.
I said, let me set it in my phone.
That every 30
and
days.
I'll invite you to this,
First
calendar.
First we said this. We're going to set every 3 months because we thought 3 months.
Because I Googled it. I said, how often should you change a filter?
Right.
And Elder Google says 90 days.
Elder Google ain't always right.
Elder Google
so then
ain't
we
always
asked
right.
a professional.
Yeah.
And he says you should do this.
Every 30
days. He came and looked at the unit. He said you should do it every 30 days.
So I set this reminder in my phone and I invited him to accept it every 30 days.
So we are responsible.
Yeah. So if he forgets, I'm like, hey, let's change that filter because it's going to remind me a week before. It's going to remind me because I love reminders. It's going to remind me 30 minutes before I set the time. And sometimes with those reminders, I kind of, stop it and I forget about it.
It's like the snooze button.
Like the snooze button. You know how many times you hit that snooze button? You're supposed to wake up at 5. You end up waking up at 10.
Went off this morning for a whole 45 minutes. I said, London, is that your phone? You better get up and get this snooze button right now.
It was right there, Bobby. Right there.
But here's what happened. After the guy left at midnight, we ended up calling our builder just to make sure. Had him come over, send the people that put the thing in.
Yeah.
You got to go back to the original. Mm-hmm. I had just check it just in case. He said, no, it was your filter. Told us when we should be changing it, the whole 9. Now, he's told us this before.
Yeah.
We just didn't take heed.
Yeah.
What ain't you taking heed to?
And the signs are there. Man.
And so this was a big lesson for us. We sat and preached ourselves about this. And I was embarrassed. When I got to work, Ryan says, it was all right. I said, yeah, it was a filter. Clyde called and says, y'all got heat now? I said, it was a filter. I was embarrassed. Because this lesson, I used this same lesson. I used this same lesson years ago.
Yeah.
We were in another home. I used it last year when I preached on the fence in Michigan. Same lesson. How many times you got to learn this lesson? Because everything starts with this heart. Out of it flows the issues of your life, the boundaries of your life. And if you don't deal with it, stuff will come up you never planned on doing, saying, being a part of. Now you got to deal with the fallout of that. Are y'all listening to me? Any questions? We got to stop. We're out of time.